Good morning, everyone. It's been Buckner again with Ag Resource Company in Chicago. It's Wednesday, May 14th, and relative calm, I think, is defining markets today, both in the ag sector and the financial sector, which makes sense. I think we're still all waiting on trade deals, but in the grain and oilseed markets, it's kind of tough to, I think, move from here, given the grain markets, corn and wheat, have digested, the projected increase in U.S. and global stocks. We're waiting on weather now. And also, soybean market, I think rallies will start to be challenged just by cheaper Brazilian and Argentine offers. As we do look to positive biofuel input this week, the export market most likely struggles. Soybean meal as well, the U.S. just is not competitive in the global market space. So we're on hiatus, I think, with big moves, and it's, again, still trade deals. And increasingly, I think the details of weather forecast every 6 hours that drive prices. So jumping right into things, I think the relative weakness in markets like corn, but also wheat, and I think soon to be soybeans, all make sense and is not remarkable given the time of year. So negative seasonal trends in corn may have kicked in a few weeks earlier than the long-term average, but it's just part and parcel of price discovery. Corn markets start to look at transition from sort of old crop supply and demand tightness this year to, I think, probable scenarios for new crop. And that is the case every year in April and May. And clearly that's what the markets have done recently. So the default, I think, is that U.S. corn ending stocks swell to 1.8 from the USDA, or 2.0, 2.3 billion bushels. What changes that? Is it weather? Is it trade policy? That's going to be the debate and the game over the next 90 to 100 days, which is always the case during spring and summer. And weather, I think weather is the most important. And so here we've got the current soil moisture anomalies in the U.S. You can see some pretty deep red in parts of northern Illinois, western Iowa, and really the entirety of Nebraska. Does that get solved? I think is first up. And we have seen pretty generally wet forecast over the next 7 or 10 days at least. I would say that this is probably capping rallies in a lot of things. NOAA's 7-day forecast on the left. You can see it's very beautiful. It's very bright. We've got red, purples, and blues pretty much everywhere but the hard red winter wheat belt. Drought gets eased, maybe solved completely in the Dakotas and Minnesota. And you can see it's a very wet 7-day period, active showers. I would say on the right, though, we've got an abrupt transition to drier forecasts from a lot of the computer models. Like what you see on the right is the European 7-day forecast from the European model. If correct, really zero precip east of the Mississippi River in the Midwest, which is not an issue today. That's going to allow us to plant things, wrap up this seeding season. But we're kind of hearing that soils are dry. We do need rain. I think it's just the long term, having missed out on a lot of winter and spring snowfall. Dryness recently, abnormal dryness is still in place in Iowa and Illinois. Maybe this does stay in place for the next 10 days if the European forecast is correct. So disagreement in the 7-day forecast, but I think the market's generally expecting non-threatening conditions, in abundant or at least adequate water in most areas. We will keep an eye on the eastern Midwest. Third thing I think happening big this week is the Kansas Wheat Tour, the Wheat Quality Tour's annual tour of Kansas. So far, they have found a day one yield of just over 50 bushels an acre. That compares to 49.9 a year ago. So 1% yield growth from day one of the Quality Tour's tour of the Kansas wheat crop. You can see here that for the most part, the tour does a pretty good job at getting the final wheat crop size correct. Especially the last 5 years, the tour has gotten within, on average, about 12 million bushels of what NASS prints the following January. So we do pay very, very close attention to this. To us, it's the outright bushel total, whatever the tour projects as being the Kansas wheat crop. That's important. But also the degree of change. So the USDA is calling for a 16% increase in the Kansas wheat yield, which we have no problem today with based on crop ratings. But so far, day one, the wheat tour's yield growth is just 1%. So does that change over the next 2 days? We should get a final result from the tour on Thursday, maybe midday. So that's really important. I think the last most important thing so far at midweek is the biofuel input that we've gotten, at least from draft proposals for the budget reconciliation bill. And we kind of have heard rumors that the 45Z credit, which gives credits based on the efficiency of fuel, from 20 cents a gallon to up to $1 a gallon, would be extended into 2031. So that's positive, at least stability in the biofuel market. I think what's unique and what's come out of this proposed language is that the credit will only be given to feedstocks that are used from North America. So only feedstock that's from the US, Mexico, and Canada. And that is unique. So we've imported a lot of Australian tallow and, of course, Chinese used cooking oil to meet renewable diesel mandates. That goes away if this passes in the budget bill. So that's a change. And, we've used a lot of tallow, used cooking oil, up to 1 billion pounds a month, almost 1 billion pounds in the month of February. So the ratio changes, and I think more soybean oil will be used. More canola oil will be imported, and so that's a positive, I think, for North American veg oil markets, and also keeps crush margins intact. So kind of tough to be bearish of soybean oil until I think we know what the soybean crop size in the U.S. And if this bill gets signed into law, I think there is this growth in the renewable diesel biofuel markets overall for the next couple of years. So that's given, I think, some life to, again, soybean crush margins and then the soybean oil market in the U.S. So kind of nuanced, choppy trading, most probable for the remainder of the week. I think we've got a few weather hot spots for watching. Northern Europe, maybe the eastern Midwest. We'll see. They will need rain at some point. But also this week, for the rest of the week, we're doing some pretty good research. Wanting to define Brazilian corn surpluses. Do they have enough to grow exports? I think that's going to be an important issue long term for U.S. corn demand. And also, we're going to be getting into scenarios. So, what do you use for exports given the odds of a Chinese trade deal have gone up this week? So those are the things we hope to provide a framework for in our research. So $1 gets you in for 30 days. Just click the link to subscribe. So as always, all the best. Good luck in the markets today, and we will see you tomorrow morning.